Adam Schiff, Liz Cheney, maybe Fauci, Adam Kinzinger, Hunter Biden, you name it. This is not a good day for them. I like St. Patrick's Day to be a very festive one, but I have a feeling that this Autopen thing is going to come back to haunt them in more ways than one. Now, you may have heard some rumblings about this one. Donald Trump coming out and saying, you know what? He's had it with the Autopen. The Autopen is not actually valid, and that would make all those auto signatures on something like J6 null and void. Null and void. Take a look. I want you to see the president speaking on Air Force One about this right before he issued, late last night, early this morning, you could say, again, happy St. Patrick's Day, before he issued his declaration that they're null and void. Here he is talking to reporters about it.
We have thousands of murderers that Biden and his incompetency, first of all, he's grossly incompetent, but that Biden and his people and his probably Autopen, which it looked like we had an Autopen for a president, and we would have been better off if we had probably. But it looks to me like, that's a big subject. I'm sure you won't ask about that, but the whole subject of Autopen, did he know what he was doing? Did he authorize it? Or is this somebody in an office, maybe a radical left lunatic, just signing whatever that person wants? That's not what it's all about. I never use it. I mean, we may use it as an example to send some young person a letter, because it's nice, we get thousands and thousands of letters, and letters of support for young people, for people that aren't feeling well, etc. But to sign pardons and all of the things that he signed with an Autopen is disgraceful.
Okay, so let the games begin. Here we go. He wrote at like 12:35 this morning, the pardons that Sleepy Joe gave to the unselected committee of political thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect because of the fact that they were done by Autopen. In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them! Exclamation point. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden. He knew nothing about them. And the people that did may have committed a crime. Therefore, those on the unselect committee who destroyed and deleted all evidence obtained during their 2-year witch hunt of me and many other innocent people should fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. The fact is that they were probably responsible for the documents that were signed on their behalf without their knowledge or consent by the worst president in the history of our country, and that would be Joe Biden. Okay, wow. So what's interesting here is that, they're going to have to prove this. They're going to have to prove this, and that's going to be tricky for them. But think about this. Historically, the way it's written in the Constitution, the president is actually supposed to actually see the physical documents when he is signing them. And so the whole robo-sign thing, it first came into play when the technology was there from George Bush, but George Bush wouldn't use it. It didn't come into play until Obama came along, and Obama wanted to go on vacation, of course. Okay, so he's out on vacation. He started using this thing. And then it went into high gear, like we've never seen before under one Joe Biden, because let's face it, Joe Biden, I don't know, seemed to go to bed at 4 o'clock every day, right? Would cancel all these events all the time. I mean, Joe Biden wasn't really always there. Spirit Phil, good to see you again back here. Thank you so much for your generosity. And I want to say, Edgar Pomeroy, thank you so much as well. I appreciate the compliments. Happy St. Patrick's to you guys. Okay, so now he's saying these things are null and void. So what does that really mean for all those people on the J6 committee? What does it mean for Fauci? What does it mean for all the family members, right, of Biden? I think it means they're up for grabs. I mean, he also sent this thing out yesterday. This was great over the weekend. The picture of him when he was there in office, the picture of the robo sign when Joe Biden was in office, and then he's got the lovely picture of him that was gotten down in Georgia, right? Fulton County, Georgia, because of none other than Fani Willis and her team, her wonderful team. She just got hit, you guys. This is great. We're going to get to this story in a little bit. She just got hit with a $54,000 fine because she was withholding evidence. What do you know? The judge just slapped her, Fani, with that one. Anyway, this is a big deal. So the pardons that were given to all of these people could kind of be over, right? Again, if you look at these auto signatures, that's not the way historically it's been done. It's not how it should be done. And so they may have a legal case here. Did Joe Biden not really know what was going on? And was there some kind of anonymous staffer? I mean, we kept saying, like, who the heck is running the show? For 4 years, it was like, who's running this deal? I mean, everything that they came up with, you knew that Joe Biden wasn't going to work, and Kamala Harris certainly wasn't going to work. The borders are, right? Who couldn't even go to the border. So if nobody was actually doing their job, who was signing all these things? It was the robo-signature. And so there may be some more questions that are left that need to be unturned there overall. I do think that it's bad news for the likes of Cheney, and it's bad news for the likes of Adam Schiff, and it's bad news for the likes of, well, the family, et cetera, Hunter Biden, et cetera, because this is just not going to work.
To follow up on the Biden Autopen, are those executive orders, those pardons from the president now null and void?
Well, I think so. It's not my decision. That'll be up to a court. But I would say that they're null and void, because I'm sure Biden didn't have any idea that it was taking place. And somebody was using an Autopen to sign off and to give pardons to, as an example, just one example, but the J6 Unselect Committee. They gave pardons with an Autopen. I don't think Biden knew anything about it. And what they did is they deleted and destroyed all of the information that took them over a year to get. And the reason they did that is because the information was very incriminating about them. Like Nancy Pelosi was determined conclusively that she knew about 10,000 soldiers and turned it down. And if we used 500 soldiers, you would have had no problem, let alone 10,000. The young lady that said that I grabbed these powerful young Secret Service agents by the neck. Okay? You know that was a big hoax. It was a lie. And she admitted it. And they deleted everything. So, you know, what they did is criminal. I think we're about to land, everybody.
So now it's up to a court. As he said, it is up to a court to decide this one, but it's a big deal, okay? It's a big deal because it's actually never been done before. We've never, especially when it comes to a pardon. Like when you're doing an actual pardon, that's one where you really should be physically signing it yourself. But was he in such bad health throughout his presidency? We've already learned, right? And the mainstream media has already come out and criticized the White House for having kept everything secret for so long. You weren't allowed to talk about his health. That was no go. That was, fake news, this, that, and the other. We're like, no, here's the raw tape. He doesn't seem to be doing that well. You want to actually debate this and say otherwise? Yeah, they did. They absolutely did. And that's all they did for 4 years until the bitter end. If they were smart, they would have gone and found themselves some young whippersnapper, and not gotten forced into the situation they were forced into with one Kamala Harris. But they're not smart. And that's why a new poll that I'm going to show you in just a little bit shows they are absolutely sinking to the lowest level they have ever had as a party, as long as people have been tracking this stuff, the lowest level in terms of popularity. It's really pretty stunning. Okay, but Liz Cheney, ladies and gentlemen, is in big trouble. Liz Cheney is one of the ones that actually got the pardon, but could be implicated in this in some really terrible ways, because one of the biggies that's come out is that she may have been involved in witness tampering. Do you remember these accusations the House was actually looking into because of this alleged witness tampering while she was on the J6 committee? She apparently went through a View host, right? So there's a woman on the View that's friends with Liz Cheney, that was friends with this girl that was going to be a witness. And so she decided, somehow the View lady decided that she would hook the two of them up. And so they had a conversation over text. The whole text has come out. It's been reported. I've reported on it. New York Post has reported on it. They had this text exchange back and forth, which means she could actually now be in a really bad spot because she may have actually been tampering with that witness. The House report found this. Alyssa Farrow is her name, the woman on The View, and she was actually acting as a go-between between this young woman and Liz Cheney, and eventually the two of them actually just corresponded directly. This is Casey Hutchinson. So eventually you had Liz Cheney and Casey talking directly together. And that is like a big no-no, because that is actually witness tampering. I mean, you're on the committee. And at the same time, what's amazing about it, you want to talk about being gaslit. Liz Cheney was out there trying to say, oh no, they're doing that. They're doing the witness tampering, and you can't witness tamper. That's really, really bad. Oh, well, she's doing it. Here, watch.
Very serious issue. And I would imagine the Department of Justice would be very interested in and would take that very seriously as well.
In fact, Cheney told me that the committee may make a criminal referral to the Justice Department recommending that anybody that attempted to influence witness testimony before the committee be prosecuted for witness tampering.
I just showed a little graphic while we were listening to that ABC reporter there talking about, oh, you know, they're going after everybody else for witness tampering, where Donald Trump back in December was saying, you know, she could be in a lot of trouble here. Well, she's in a lot of trouble. I would say, regardless of even the robo-sign thing, which is obviously a pretty darn big deal, but regardless of that, you know, once they were pardoned, I think that actually gave the other side, the Republicans that would be, a little bit more leeway to say, hey, we're going to haul them in and bring them in, because now you have to testify. And there are ways to go after them civilly. We have states, Texas, Florida, I'm looking at you, that could also go after them. So they're not necessarily free and clear. But let's just say right now, given this whole situation with the auto signature coming and robo-signing into play, they're really not in the free and clear. They're really in a lot of trouble. And Liz Cheney is going to be one of the ones hurt. The other one, the other biggie, well, you got Dan Bongino, my good friend, over at the FBI right now. Dan and I used to work together at Fox, and he's just a really terrific, wonderful guy. Maybe you guys used to watch his show. Oh, I'm going to get into the shot there. The Dan Bongino show, it just had its last day, I guess last week, and now he's off to the White House, actually the FBI. He's going to join Kash Patel there. And I want to point something out, because he said something in one of his last shows that I think is actually incredibly important for the moment we're in right now. Because now it looks like Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, Adam Kinzinger, they're not going to be able to go scot-free. And he has no use for this guy, Schiff. Shifty Schiff. And I don't either. I mean, he's star of his own little Schiff show. Yeah. You know what I mean to say. Anyway, here's Schiff.
Particularly good mood today.
Here's Dan.
Particularly good mood today. If you only knew. You ever hear that House on Fire song? It's one of his old songs. This guy's on fire, just like the Bailey song. That house on fire. He is on fire, Schiff. Well, 100% success rate of failing. Why is Adam Schiff so worried? Folks, I strongly encourage you to go back and take another look today at the Russia collusion hoax. I know it's a story that's old and a lot of people want to move on. I'm going to be straight with you. I don't want to move on. We had the FBI in conjunction with the Department of Justice, officials in Congress, foreign governments, and intel people fabricate a story, invent a story that could have caused and done serious long-term harm to international relations with a nuclear-powered foe. It's kind of a big freaking deal. I'm not letting it go. And you listen to me. This is going to be very important in the coming days. I'm not letting this go. I want to find out what happened, because it can never happen again. Not to a Democrat, not to a Republican, not to a Libertarian, not to any United States citizen. You do not get to alter or try to change the course of electoral politics by fabricating a story, hijacking the justice system then to give the patina of truth to a fake story. You don't get to do that. Why do I bring that up now? Because who is the ringmaster of that circus? Yes, Adam Schiff. And no, I'm not letting it go.
So I'm going to tell you something. Knowing Dan, like, he's a dog with a bone, right? He's definitely not going to let it go. He is definitely going to follow through on this. And I would just say that if you go back to the very beginning, the Russia stuff, that was all Adam Schiff. Well, it was actually Hillary Clinton, right? I mean, you got to go way back. And it was Perkins Coie, the law firm that was representing the Hillary Clinton campaign. And they went out and hired Fusion GPS, which then went and hired Christopher Steele, who then went and hired a bunch of people, including a guy who actually we thought of our own FBI was believing to be a Russian spy. Haha, what do you know? I mean, you want to talk about where the real Russian spies are. Anyway, so this guy, Christopher Steele, comes up with this crazy report. I read it and I was like so stunned. I was like, why would anybody ever think this was real? Like, you'd have to be a complete moron to think this was real, because it reads like it belongs on the front page of the National Enquirer. And so it didn't read like any kind of piece of intelligence research. It read like a supermarket tabloid, which told me that was opposition research. Now, why is it that I'm just, a lonely little reporter here and I'm sitting there saying, okay, this is opposition research, but you got people like, Adam Schiff, who's supposed to be a big fancy representative from California, who wishes, the guy actually wanted to be an actor, wishes he was on TV, like playing someone other than Shifty Shift himself. Anyway, so why is it that he can't figure this? Well, he didn't want to, right? Like, he had a narrative, Hillary Clinton had a narrative, James Comey had a narrative. Hey, James Comey was putting out his honeypots every place he could, right? They did not want Donald Trump to win, no matter what. They didn't want any Republican, let's be honest, to win. That's why if you talk to George Papadopoulos, who was the victim of a few of those honeypot things, like, George, come on, 3 times, I think he told me. Anyway, it was on 2 different campaigns, including Ben Carson's campaign. So George's point to me, and you can go watch the interview on this channel, was that they were after whoever, right? They wanted to be embedded in whoever they thought stood a chance at winning. And so Comey was trying to gather intel. So you look at what really went down, and then Schiff trying to use this all to create this massive investigation, and then the impeachment thing, impeachment 1, impeachment 2. I mean, enough already. And now at least the tables are turned, because Donald Trump went in there, dare I say, almost a little bit naively, thinking, okay, I'm president now. I want to do the right thing. I'm going to get everything going. I, want to get rid of I want to get rid of regulation. I want to help improve the economy. I want to do this, that, and the other. And he did get a lot of that done up until March 2020. We actually had the best growth in middle class incomes we had ever seen since the 1950s. You got to go back to JFK. So he's out there trying to do all this stuff, and then they're impeding him every single step of the way with this, that, and the other. So now Dan starts at the FBI. Today is actually his very first day. So again, I got to fix my shot there. Dan Bongino going over to the FBI. I'm telling you, like, Adam Schiff, be on notice. These guys are lawyering up as we speak, and they have to lawyer up, because it's going to get really ugly for them really, really, really fast. You know who else it's going to get ugly for? One, Mr. Anthony Fauci. One, Mr. Hunter Biden. I think this scares some people. I think it scares some people, certainly in the mainstream media. Here's the captain of the mainstream media, one Jake Tapper. He sent this out today at 12:35 a.m. Eastern Time. It's weird that he mentions that. They're all like angry because the president stays up late. The president decreed that he was nullifying President Biden's preemptive pardons of members of the January 6th committee, an assertion of a power the Constitution does not bestow. Of course, he didn't actually say that he's making his position clear, right? But if we go back to the soundbite, didn't he actually say it's going to be up to a judge to decide this? Here's the reporter asking about the auto signs and whether or not, they're really going to be. And listen to what he says. This is important, because you see what the media is writing. The captain of the mainstream media, right? Jake Tapper, your favorite. I'm teasing. And then you see what the president actually said.
To follow up on the Biden Autopen, are those executive orders, those pardons from the president now null and void?
I think so. It's not my decision that we have to accord. But I would say that they're null and void, because I'm sure Biden didn't have any idea that it was taking place. And somebody was using an Autopen to sign off and to give pardons to, as an example, this is one example, but the J6 unselect committee.
Okay, so, he's joking. For 4 years, you had an auto sign there. You didn't really know who was running the show. It's something, actually, I was reading in Matt Taibbi's newsletter today, which was a good little, let me just share with you what he said, because I thought this was rather telling, rather interesting. Matt Taibbi, he has like a Substack newsletter. He is a reporter over on well, just Substack, I should say. He used to be at Rolling Stone. And he said, the thing is that back in the Obama day, this is what I was telling you earlier, guys, the coverage of the Autopen was an issue back then. Federal officials had long been anxious about its use, fearing exactly this sort of challenge to the legitimacy of White House documents. That makes coverage today describing the Autopen as ordinarily uncontroversial odd. So like they're going to sit there and say, oh, this has never been done before. This is so terrible. And the point is that actually, like, this has always been controversial. It's never been cool. Like I was telling you earlier, right? George Bush actually created it, but he didn't use it. He didn't believe that he should use it. He never utilized an Autopen. That's pretty important. In fact, in one case, I'm quoting, he flew through the night to get to the White House in time to sign the Terry Schiavo bill. Article 1, Section 7 of the Constitution describes how bills must be presented to the president, and it means every bill must physically be presented to the president. So this whole auto sign thing, this doesn't really fly. And that means that, Tapper can sit there and say, well, he doesn't get the constitutional power. And Trump can sit here and say, these pardons are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect. And what this is going to come down to is the courts. Okay, so that's where it goes from here on out. It's going to go to the courts. And I just say, you know what? I wish them all luck. You know who I really wish a whole bunch of luck to? But no, I don't. I'm just kidding. That would be one Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci, who I'm realizing was one bad dude, right? Well, I mean, I think we all knew it. But I'm just saying, like, this is not looking good. When you have the New York Times, even the New York Times coming out and saying in a column now that scientists badly misled the public on COVID-19 origins. Remember that one, guys? Oh boy, I did a lot of reporting on that. I don't know how much you were able to see actually back in the day, but I'll tell you, that was pretty bad because I knew in February of 2020 they had come from a Wuhan lab. I had sources within I guess you could call it the deep state, right? Who had told me that this came from the Wuhan lab. They were pretty convinced of that. They didn't buy the wet market theory, but then it wasn't necessarily deliberate. It was just really, a shoddy operation, to which I've always said, like, why were we giving money vis-a-vis that NGO health thing, right? Why were we giving any money, even if it was only $600,000 that Fauci still won't admit to? Why were we giving them anything if we knew it was so shoddy? You know how we knew it was shoddy? Because the lab itself had been on TV in China. And the Taiwanese have actually found this tape, and I've run it on this program actually before, and they showed how the woman who ran that lab was so proud of all her scientists because somehow they never, ever, ever wore gloves. Like they would just, deal with these bats, and they were like fearless, and this was considered a badge of honor. And I'd be like, wait a second, we're giving money to them? And they don't even wear their gloves? Are you kidding me? They're not following the proper scientific protocol? So why would we want anything to do with any of the people there? Why would we be, apparently we had a whole bunch of intel ops that were there, and, somehow, I don't know, they kind of completely glossed over the fact that nobody was taking the necessary safety protocols. So anyway, what wound up happening is 3 people got sick from that Wuhan lab, and they wound up in the emergency room with all of the symptoms that one would have for this. And the media just took it, right? From Anthony Fauci and from the CDC, everybody, like Department of Energy, CIA, everybody was saying the same exact thing, that this was coming from a wet market. And if you dared to suggest otherwise, well, you know what happened. I mean, it was game over. It was game over. And so now we have learned that, when it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And so in this particular case, it was. You better believe it was the actual lab. And yet Fauci got up there and lied to Congress. Remember the exchanges between him and Rand Paul? So I'm wondering if now Fauci loses his pardon too. Because if the auto signatures are all null and void, then it seems like you could go after him too. And I would say even if even if somebody's going to give him that pardon, which nobody should, but even if, you still ought to haul him right up there and ask all the questions, because as I said, if you've been pardoned, fine, you've been pardoned, but there's ways to still go after you civilly, and there are ways to go after you with states. And so it doesn't mean you're fully in the clear. And I think we need to get that all cleared up, don't you? I mean, look, people went through a lot. You know, the people went through a lot. I mean, they shut down businesses. There are businesses that have still not recovered because of one Anthony Fauci. You know, Senator Eric Schmidt was on my friend Benny's show recently, and he said, we got to haul him back in. This was before the auto signature thing being declared null and void. This is, I want to show you Senator Schmidt from Missouri saying, you know, he owes everybody an explanation.
They were telling people you couldn't see a loved one when they were dying. You couldn't see your family during Christmas. This was insane, totally insane. And so Fauci's got a lot to answer to. And by the way, just because he's gotten the pardon, it doesn't mean he can't be compelled to testify, and he can't take the Fifth Amendment because he can't be prosecuted. So let's lay it all out there, and let's bring Fauci back in.
Yeah, let's. Credit to Benny for that one. Thank you. Let's. Right? I mean, the jig is up. Little reference to St. Patrick's Day to go with my green there. I mean, when even the New York Times is on to you, I'm sorry. You know, Fauci has to explain more of what went down. And we've got every single three-letter agency now coming out and saying, yep, it came from China, it came from China, it came from China. So that was a cover-up operation as well. And I'm telling you something, guys, you know what? When you sit there and you cover things up and you don't allow people to explore the truth, or even, find the truth, but like even explore it, right? Like you're not even allowed to talk about certain things, like that Hunter Biden laptop that we were not allowed to talk to. I'm living proof of it, right? Shared an article I shouldn't have, paid a price. I mean, wow. I mean, when you are shutting down an opportunity for people to speak candidly, that is a huge problem. And that's where we were. I mean, you want to talk about the Gestapo. You want to talk about a totalitarian government approach. That's what we lived through for 4 years. And now it's all going to get blown wide out into the open. Oh, and here's another headline coming to us just now. Elon Musk tweeting this one out. 12 biolabs have been refused funding by Congress. So that's a bit of a, FU, I guess, if you would, to one Anthony Fauci. But I think this has to go a whole lot further. I think it will. You know, you've had 4 years on the sidelines there. Some really smart folks. Stephen Miller's one of them. Some smart attorneys over at Heritage. You know, I always liked Project 2025. I always thought it was really smart. Donald Trump was like, well, this isn't really me. But they had some good ideas. And I think there are a lot of people there that have done some really strong research, and a lot of that is going to come to fruition right now. I want to get to the judge slapping one Fani Willis. Oh my goodness, Fani getting slapped with a $54,000 fine. But before we do, just a heads up to our favorite folks over at American Heart for Gold. You can get up to $15,000 right now in free silver. If you haven't done this, you've really got to take a look. Go to trishlovesgold.com today. Trish Loves Gold has a nice ring to it, especially on this St. Patrick's Day. You know, the whole leprechaun story and all that good stuff. Anyway, go check them out. You can text my name as well to get more information about the $15,000 worth of free silver. Just text Trish, T-R-I-S-H, to 65532, or call them at 1-844-495-1115, up to $15K worth of free silver with qualifying gold purchases.